everyone. How are you today? See how these guys are actually more awake than you are. I promised you yesterday that I would start exactly at 9 plus the 30 minutes we get in Lebanon. It's exactly 9:30, so I kept my promise. But without further ado, because I want to keep the time for the entire day, I'll let Nicolas introduce all your guests and get this panel started.
Sure.
Thank you. Welcome.
Sure. Thank you. So today we have a session about supporting startups, and we have guests that I'll start introducing. Minister Marwan Kheireddine, Chairman of Mawarid Bank. Mr. Robert Fadel, MP in the Lebanese Parliament and Chairman of BDL. Mr. Mouhamad Rabah, Chairman of ZRE, who runs the BDD Beirut Digital District, and Mr. Maroun Chammas, Chairman and CEO of Beritech Ecosystem. So we're going to try to keep the format as it is supposed to be, half an hour or 35 minutes to be exact, 25 minutes of interventions and discussion between the guests, and then we'll have 10 minutes of Q&A. So I listed a small list. I made a small list of what are the ingredients that are necessary for startups to flourish in any country. And I came up with a few points: infrastructure, funding, conducive environment, training and mentoring, networking or access to markets and to global markets, skilled resources. Each of these gentlemen touch on one of many of these points. So we're going to scratch their minds about what's happening in Lebanon, what should happen. And if I may say, let's try not to go to what should be if we were in an ideal country. We're not in an ideal country. We have a lot of problems. The government is totally paralyzed these days. So let's try to come up with ideas what we can do with the current situation and not build as if we were a European country living in a perfect world. We're not. We're lucky to have the central bank doing everything it's doing for the ecosystem. And I'm very optimistic that at the pace we are moving, a lot of great things will happen in the startup scene in Lebanon very soon. But of course, things can improve. And each of these gentlemen sees things from a specific point of view. So let's see exactly what can come up out of this discussion. So Marwan touches on many fronts. You touch on the funding front with the Mawarid investment in startups, and you touch with the bootcamp initiative. You touch also on the training and access to mentoring and to. So I'd like to have your opinion on this, Marwan.
I think. Thank you, Nicolas. I think I'd like to touch on start touching on the infrastructure part, because I understand government, and it is true. Government today is almost paralyzed in Lebanon. However, there are things that can be done within the government, especially things that do not require a decision by the Council of Ministers. For example, I call upon my dear friend, Minister Harb, the Minister of Telecom, to open up the internet or access to the internet, access to broadband, and reduce the prices. Opening up the internet is a simple ministerial decision that he can take at the level of the ministry, and that will give access to startups. It will give them access to much faster internet. We have an amazing network that was built and is not utilized. All of Lebanon, I don't know if you know, but all of Lebanon's main telecom centers are linked via fiber, and we could deliver the fiber to end users, yet we're not doing that. And what that requires is a decision and the flip of a button. It does not require anything other than that. Yet somehow we are failing to convince the Ministry of Telecom and the persons running the Ministry of Telecom to flip that switch. which is totally ridiculous. I mean, the growth that the GDP could achieve by flipping that switch is significant. It's in percentage, it's not in less than, so it could be 1, 2, 3% per year if we flip the switch, but we're not flipping the switch, unfortunately.
Robert, we also would like to know, in Badr, you touched on the training, on the capacity building of the startups, and on the opening up for them, the reach to investors. What do you think should be done and what's happening?
Yeah, first of all, thank you for inviting us. It's, when I look back, we started Badr with Maroun and Marwan 10 years ago exactly. When I look where we were 10 years ago, there were only 2 actually players in the market supporting entrepreneurs, Beritech and Kafalat. And it's amazing to see how, 10 years is a long time, but it's also a very short time, especially when you look back, to see how in 10 years we moved from almost no ecosystem to a quite sophisticated ecosystem that started with first funding, and then the first equity fund was in 2006. It was Badr started it, then Beritech Fund, then MEVP Fund, and I mean, it just came in a very steady way, yet relatively slow way until the 331 happened last year. Looking forward, I think actually many important gaps in the ecosystem have been filled, and most importantly, the funding gap. But yet we're still facing some of the structural issues. It looks like people in the ecosystem have done their homework, but yet you don't live on an island. And now you have the structural issues. And it's really interesting to see that it's really, we're living now live the kind of acid test. You have on one side, a lot of very promising factors for success, like funding, like the ecosystem that is now quite a sophisticated ecosystem, and the talents. But on the other side, you face the structural issues. One of them is infrastructure. The other one is the insecurity and instability of the country, and obviously corruption, which is also another big issue. So moving forward, we need to try to address those points, so I'm not going to repeat what Marwan said, because obviously internet has done a lot of progress, and yet there's a lot that remains to be done. Besides the internet issue and the infrastructure issue, there is still some issues, some important challenges. One of them is training. And Badr is right now starting a coding school. So that's again, we look at what are the gaps, and we keep filling those gaps, we and the other players in the ecosystem. So the training part is very important. Obviously, what will really take the whole system to another level is when we will have the first important exit, because this will inspire a new generation of entrepreneurs. This will show that this is for real, that this is actually happening, and that it's not only just about the daydreamers. It's actually about creating value and jobs and also opportunities for the youth. So I would say training on one side, hoping that the first exit will be as soon as possible, and also keep on working on the major issues, which is most important one we can work on is infrastructure.
So Marwan is dreaming of a country that has fiber optic to the home, every home in Lebanon, whether it is the furthest away from Beirut or is it in the center of Beirut, will have fiber optic connection. That's a great dream. You have Robert, who's dreaming of a digital new generation that learn coding in schools, that has Raspberry Pis in every classroom, and is preparing itself for a digital Lebanon. And we have all that on a small scale in the Beirut Digital District that Mouhamad heads and develops. And we'd like to know, Mouhamad, how is it going? Because when we visit the Beirut Digital District, the BDD, we feel that we are in Silicon Valley. We're not in Lebanon. So how would you help us expand this to the country?
I believe I need to go back to the first word that you said, Nicolas. We have to focus on the positive thinking. Whatever happens, you know, you were the one that launched the idea of digital districts in Lebanon, and you wanted like every government of Lebanon to have its own digital district. When we started, one of the main ideas that we wanted to create, and our mission was to try to build the ideal environment to bring in companies working in IT, ICT, digital, creative, knowledge-based industries, help them with added value services, provide them with state-of-the-art infrastructure, which was supposed to be the fiber optics, and in addition to that, help them in their daily work to be able to be more productive and co-working spaces. Now, unfortunately, during the last 3 years, fiber optics did not happen. I'll be glad now to announce in short that 2 months ago, we just started as a pilot as ZRE, and the fiber optics was connected to ZRE. It's not enough now, we're looking for the other companies to be connected to the fiber optics. But, however, even we didn't have the fiber optics, this is the first year where I'm happy to see the efforts that we have put the last 2 years where the ecosystem is taking shape. Everyone that goes there sees a tremendous change. And this is Lebanon. You have to work with the constraints that it has, and whenever you have something from the government, it's just an added value. It's unfortunate that we say that, but the government is usually not helping but hindering our progress. And that's where every entrepreneur has to find solution to be able to overcome and create something and find solution how to tackle these problems. And this is where when fiber optics will happen, we'll have a much stronger growth and a much faster growth. And so currently BDD, fortunately enough, we're 15,000 square meters. We're 50 companies, almost 35, we're almost 30 startups, small startups, 20 medium to large startups. We have 1,400 employees. We have key people such as our partners, Veritech, which acted as an incubator accelerator. We're trying to really attract incubators, accelerators. We have UKLTH, who have been one of the main achievements and deliveries of the Circulus 331, who are doing a great job. We have Badr. Everyone, we're trying to really create the environment to help them be productive and prosper. And fortunately enough, everyone that's coming in and seeing is feeling that I want to be in this space because I want to be next to people that think alike, that share ideas, that network together. This is on one aspect. So on the other aspect, we're trying to help the startups by connecting people and networking. And this is one of the main things that you said. One of the main events that we do on a yearly basis is Ignite with Endeavor. And the idea of Ignite is to connect the leading startup, the leading enterprises in Lebanon, the big family business, to the small SMEs, to the small and medium enterprises, so that they work together and we try to introduce them to create businesses. I believe still in Lebanon, it is the private sector that will always grow and will drive this progress. And this is what we're seeing with 331 and with the central bank. And it's not the government, it's the private sector that supports the government, and the government is just an added value for that.
So just a quick question. 15,000 square meters today. What's the plan on the near future?
Next year, we'll be adding almost at least 5,000 square meters. So it'll be 20,000 square meters by the end of 2016. We're launching a project of 15,000 square meters beginning next year, which will be completed by end of 2018. And that will bring us to almost 35,000 square meters, expecting at least doubling in the number of companies and doubling of number of entrepreneurs working within the ecosystem.
Thank you, Mouhamad. Maroun, last but not least, you were one of the pioneers of this ecosystem when you had no support. I mean, the ecosystem had no support, whether it is on infrastructure or on funding. DSL was not there. 3G, 4G were not there at the time when you started, and the 331 was not there. Since then, the ecosystem has gone a long way. Of course, a lot of things still has to be done, but you have this unique perspective of having touched as in Veritech, the funding side and the incubation side and the accelerator side, and you saw, what can you tell us about the startups themselves? Because you witnessed many generations of startups. What do you think about these young entrepreneurs?
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Nicolas. Let me go back a little bit and try to summarize this whole thing. 331 was pivotal to the ecosystem. Before that, I can say that there were many initiatives and there were a lot of interest, okay, and there were different parties doing different things. 331 came as a pivotal action from BDL because the influx of money, the interest of entrepreneurs, because when you have money, you can start really talking about business. So I can say that the baby is born now. The baby is healthy. We're seeing a baby that is growing rapidly. What we want to try to do is leapfrog. Leapfrog meaning that we want to jump from one stage to another stage. And I think what we're seeing today, last year, this year, is a total leapfrog. And probably next year, you're going to see even more things and more announcements and more things coming up. The ecosystem is taking shape. Entrepreneurs are getting much more acute. The different lines that people are doing, whether, let's say, it's speed at BDD, it's an accelerator program that we started between MEVP, IM Capital, Berry Tech Fund, with the support of BDD. For instance, we will be graduating the first batch in a couple of months. And if I had a talk with the entrepreneurs and an inspiring talk with them, and you cannot imagine the energy that is in there. There are 6 different projects going on. They are, I can say, really top-notch. And what we're seeing is a very serious effort from the entrepreneur that are getting more and more sophisticated in terms of the whether the project that they're doing or their own mind. And what's more important about the whole thing is that you start to feel the competition among people in the industry. So they want to reach, the top 3-5% of the world, and they know to be able to reach that, they need to put lots of efforts. Now, with the help of UK Tech Hub, with the help of all the different Alt City and so on and so forth, it's all gluing together. It's like a big canvas now, a big Lego taking shape. And what I can say, yesterday, for instance, we announced 6 investments. Today, Paul is going to announce 6 other investments that we did. So in less than 1 year, we've invested or committed or earmarked more than $20 million as Berry Tech Fund 2, which is a lot of money right there. So, and we're investing in a very, very careful way because we have the fiduciary responsibility. We have banks that have invested money with us, so we cannot just give money away. So I think this learning curve is becoming a very precise exercise, and it's going to be to the benefit of the economy, definitely, and to the benefit of all the entrepreneurs in Lebanon, because at the end of the day, we need success stories, we need exits, and we need people to make money. That's in a nutshell.
Let me throw at you a question, an important question. How do you see the possibility of retaining these companies once they reach the second or the third phase of financing? When they're looking for 500K to 1 million K, it is secured. When they go for 5 million K, it's still secured. When they go for 10 or 20 million, it's a little bit tougher to get in Lebanon. And if they want to get it, they have to go to international funds. If they go to international funds, a lot of them will put a condition on them to relocate part of their operation or part of their offices outside. What should we do, or what can we do as an ecosystem to try to retain as much as possible of these startups, even if they want to be global, to operate out of Lebanon?
The ecosystem in my opinion, is dynamic. And the tickets of 20 and 50 millions, and obviously there will be tickets in maybe 2 or 3 or 5 years from now, the ecosystem will dynamically adjust. There will be funds. Leap today, they have a ticket or up to 10 million. There will be fund in 2 or 3 years, I can see that from now, that will be able to give up to 50 million or 30 million. So this is the local banks, there's still a lot of money that is going to be available for the ecosystem from the banks. So part of it will be catered locally because banks here are starting to get into the understanding of this whole exercise. And whatever is not going to be able to, we're not going to be able to get from here, the entrepreneurs will go outside. I mean, just for your information, Veritech Fund 2, as I said, by the end of the second or third quarter will be beyond the 20 million invested, and we need to start preparing for the third Veritech Fund. So, but all of this is taking shape. I want to assure banks and all the investors in a very strict and comprehensive way. It's not like we're doing anything and everything. So rest assured, probably in a year or two from now, other banks, Mawarid, Banque Audi, and so on, not to name all the banks, will certainly put more money. When they see that this is serious and it's getting to somewhere, they're all going to spend money.
Thank
in the
you,
funds.
Thank you, Maroun. So you don't see availability of fund problem, which I agree.
Not at all.
I totally agree with you.
Not at all.
But I want to also ask.
Let me add on that. I think what we have done in the past 2 years is amazing. I doubt that there's any country in the world that has created all the different parts that are required to have a healthy ecosystem such as we have done. And obviously, a very important piece of that ecosystem is the funding that was made available by 331, by the central bank's Circular 331. Yesterday, the governor of the central bank announced the creation of a market. That is by no way to be taken lightly. When we speak of funding companies, you have obviously under 331 banks can invest directly. Some banks have invested in funds. We have the funds that are there anyway and are playing a key intermediation role between investors and companies. And now we're going to have a market that will provide large ticket potential because it can get money from a lot of players. So I do not think that there's an issue with funding. I do not think that there's an issue with the existing structure of funds where any company in any accelerator can find or can have access to seed equity, to private equity, et cetera, et cetera. The whole ecosystem is taking shape. What we need now is for the entrepreneurs to be as creative as they can, to understand that what we offer in Lebanon is identical to any other country, anywhere in the world. As a matter of fact, we are by far much better in our offering than any country in the region, by far. And therefore, go create, go build companies, and everything will come together. The pieces are there.
Let me jump on this, still with you, Marwan. We have $170 billion in deposits in the banking sector in Lebanon. And this has not been tapped yet because these people are risk averse. They are used to invest in treasury bills, in building, in land, in secure investment, in deposits that has very low risk and a high probability of big return. And we want to take them away from this and take them to the venture capital behavior and mood, which is not easy, unless, of course, we come up with a few success stories, big exits, and everybody starts thinking, why can't I get these multiplier on my money? Well, how do you think and how quickly can we move a little bit of these 170 billions to get excited by what we are all doing and what we all believe in?
I think we have first to deal with the issue of perception. The perception is that the stock market in Lebanon does not work. We have the Beirut Stock Exchange, which has a few companies listed on it, It is not an efficient market. It's not a liquid market. It's not a transparent market. It's not a market that offers really any serious investment possibilities for the people that have money. People that have money live by one equation, Nicolas: risk, reward. You give them the expected return or the reward, they will take the risk. The Lebanese are extremely sophisticated, and you do not need to educate them in that. You need to offer them an opportunity where the risk equals the reward, and they will take it. They have done so in many instances in our history. So we have the image of the Beirut Stock Exchange that is somewhere there in the minds of people with money that are going to be thinking, you know what, this is not a game I want to play because I've lost money investing in the Beirut Stock Exchange, or I've not been able to get out of my investments in the Beirut Stock Exchange. The new market that is being created, one of the main things that, main pillars that will be helping that market prosper is the available liquidity. So we should be able to create a good example, offer people opportunities to invest where the reward is equal to the risk that they're taking, and I think this is what we need to do basically.
Yeah, just a short thing I wanted to add. I think we're actually very close to the point where, you know, any person in Lebanon would start looking at investment in startups, and I'll tell you why. I don't think people are risk averse. Lebanese are entrepreneurs, and they actually we see them investing in some of the most risky areas in the world. They're not risk averse. I think it's just a question of awareness and perception, in the sense that this kind of event and the fact that the ecosystem and the entrepreneurship community is becoming more and more visible and more credible. So I think we're very close to the point where they will actually be perceived as very serious investment opportunities.
Excellent, excellent. Ahmad?
I believe 331 was a great idea and great opportunity what has done, and the funding to be able to boost and leapfrog the ecosystem. But we all know that the idea is always 10 to 20%. Now comes the times for execution. And now comes, as Maroun said, the efforts on all the entities that are being created, on the investment, on the entrepreneurs, to be able to create companies that will create success stories in exits or being acquired by external entities. We're starting to see this in the market, the latest of which the acquisition of ClearTag by JWT. And I believe the more we hear on the market that Lebanese startups are starting to be acquired, there's no need, not only there is a need, there will be inflow from foreign entities and foreign venture capitalists that will look at this ecosystem. And we're starting to see that there's a lot of talk about how the ecosystem is growing, what type of startups are being created. And there we'll have unlimited access to funds, not only from the Lebanese perspective, but also from international and local. And we're seeing how many funds are being invested regionally and internationally in Europe. And I believe these are the success stories that we need to create. And next year we need to see how the funds that have been invested by 331 into the different entities, what they have created, what are the startups, how many jobs have been created, and what are the success stories that we have.
I'm going to close our session, not the session, but we'll go to a few questions from the public with Maroun. There's the fund of 331, and there's the fund of the pioneers, and there's the angels, and there's the 170 billion sleeping in the bank that will probably get excited at some point. And there's the international funds. The international funds don't seem very important when we have all this huge base of funds available in Lebanon or potentially available. But the international fund brings something else to the table, which is not just the money, it's the network,
the markets, the networks,
and the markets. What do you think? How can we attract them to help the startups get a better global reach?
Yeah, definitely. What needs to be done, I think now that we've passed the first stage, let's say, we need to start making ourselves known. The most important part is to organize ourselves as an ecosystem to go to the States, to go to Europe, and so on. So we start showing, like a showcase, the best of what we have as entrepreneurs. Last year, I think there was a conference in New York led by the AmCham. And this year, they're going to be doing the same thing. This is very important because it gives us a very good exposure. Let me tell you some of the projects that are happening, some of the companies that we invested in. And most importantly, I think next year will have to be a showcase of all the entrepreneurs. And they will line up and tell each one will tell his own story. But a couple of things that are interesting that are happening on a world level. I can think of Loop, a company that we're investing in. It's an electric scooter that you can rent out. We're going to be starting Beirut, Vancouver, Palo Alto, London, and Mexico City. So that's a huge exposure. This is a company that was founded in Vancouver, coming to Lebanon. The owner and the founder is Lebanese Canadian. This is going to give a lot of exposure. Some other very exciting things happening at Speed, for instance, a drone, a plane drone. This is the first plane drone that can go up to 200 kilometers that is being built in Lebanon. So you can imagine. Virtual reality, a company that, like IKEA, that wants to do things based on virtual reality and so on. So I can say hundreds of examples. All these are bright ideas. Bright ideas will attract, will interest funds, and will have a whole, approach from a world perspective. So stay tight, sit well on your seat. We have great ideas coming up, great success stories, I'm sure, coming up.
Great, thank you, Maroun.